Hi, welcome to the Catholic Corner. I'm Monsignor Walter Nolan. Today we have a nice discussion. We're going to discuss the importance of marriage, a great, great sacrament and a beautiful gift of God, and some of the ways that our own Diocese of Trenton is trying to strengthen marriage in our own Diocese of Mercer and Monmouth, Ocean, and Burlington counties. And to help with this effort, the diocese held a marriage summit and has formed a diocesan marriage ministry team. My guests today are very, very dear friends for a long, long time because we've done some things for a while. Peg Hensler and Denny Slavin. Peg Hensler is Associate Director of the Department of Youth, Marriage and Family of the Diocese of Trenton. She is also the Coordinator of Marriage Ministries and Natural Family Planning. Peg holds a master's degree in theological studies from LaSalle University and serves on the board of the National Association of Catholic Family Life Ministers. She's also a current president of the New Jersey Council of Family Life Directors, representing all 5 dioceses in our beautiful state of New Jersey. Peg, God bless you. Thanks for being with the Catholic Corner.
Thank you, Monsignor, and it's great to be here.
Thank you. Denny Slavin is a permanent deacon at Our Lady of Sorrows, St. Anthony's Parish in Hamilton, New Jersey. Married since 1970 to his wife, Joni. Deacon Denny Slavin has served with Joni since the early 1980s on their parish pre-Cana team, the Diocesan Engaged Encounter Retreat team, the Diocesan To Trust Again pre-Cana team, and the first Diocesan Retrovi Retreat team. It's kind of where Denny and I have known each other for a long time. Denny was ordained a permanent deacon in 1991 for service with the Department of Youth, Marriage, and Family Life. His ministry included assisting in the development of a parish pre-Cana team training curriculum, conducting team training, and diocesan-level pre-Cana days for engaged couples, and training of focused facilitators. Denny's a pretty busy guy. Today, Deacon Denny and Peg will tell us about this newly formed diocesan marriage ministry team and the diocese initiative to build up and support married couples in our diocese. Pretty important ministry and work.
Absolutely.
Welcome, Denny and Peg.
Thanks, Monsignor.
How about a brief overview maybe for ourselves of the diocesan plan of strengthening marriage,
Sure.
which I guess was launched during your diocesan summit for marriage.
That's right.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
That happened back in May, and the 7 steps were promulgated, 7 goals, so to speak, for the plan itself. One of the steps was to equip the clergy and laity to be authentic witnesses and teachers in the sacrament of marriage. Another one was to integrate marriage into all formational type experiences throughout the diocese, to market a compelling message for marriage, to enhance marriage preparation relative to today's young adults, to help civilly married couples move towards sacramental marriage, to embed marriage ministry in every parish, make sure that it's embedded throughout the whole parish.
Right.
Thinking beyond pre-Cana now, to examining where do we find marriage ministry beyond pre-Cana, and to promote marriage building culture in every parish in the diocese.
Peg, and then it's marvelous works, and the steps are certainly there in good order. I've always thought, when I think about marriage or priesthood or everything, I don't know if there's anything more important you ever do in your life is to make that kind of a decision.
Right.
I always said to people, what college are you going to go to? Spend a lot of time thinking about what college you're going to go to. They spend a lot of time thinking what I want to study. Think a lot of time whether I should play baseball or football or whatever. And sometimes we don't spend as much time. I realize there's a lot of joy of relationships and whatever, but there's also a lot of saying, and the other question I always would ask, what do you think? You think God wants you to do this? Just like I ask my question to myself, does God want you to be a priest? Because to me that was even more important than do I want to be a priest?
Right, right.
And I think that's the same kind of a question we ask when you're in love with somebody. You think God is involved in all of this, and then
Exactly.
and then you go on.
That's beautiful.
Tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, about the marriage ministry team, and hopefully we're going to maybe fill out some of the things you just said.
Sure, sure. Well, there is one of the points in the plan involves forming a diocesan marriage ministry team. So that's one of the things that the diocese is tasked to do. And to give you a little bit of background on that, the team it's almost like a pre-team in the sense that we are going to form this team of presenters. But our role as the diocesan marriage ministry team is to develop the curriculum, is to develop the delivery of the curriculum. So how are we going to form these people who are in marriage ministry? And then to actually form the team and conduct the trainings. And the people that we're training are basically anyone in parishes who are involved in marriage ministry. So we're talking about pre-Cana team couples, and we're talking about another part of the plan, which is that parishes are being asked to form a core team to be in charge of marriage ministry, which would be integrated into the life of the parish, not unlike youth ministry. We look at youth ministry as something that's not just youth group. Oftentimes they think of youth group, but it's ministry that really needs to be part of the life of the parish. The same for marriage ministry. If we want to really strengthen and support marriage, it needs to be intentional marriage ministry. So that's kind of what we're doing.
Yes, while respecting the things that exist, we want to enhance that opportunity for people to be aware of the sacrament of marriage and have information available to them to know how to live it.
Right.
Across the board, from the people who train, people who prepare the couples, right down to the couples.
And I'm hesitating only in a second because what's going through my mind is the sacredness.
Yes.
When you form or inform,
But I was thinking
the
about
sacredness has to
yeah.
be a part of that. This is where we're finding God. This is where we're finding our goal. I try to often myself, whenever I was involved, to try to say to folks, somehow we focus a lot here, but there is a hereafter. And are we allowing each other's gifts to help us get to that final goal?
And that is the ultimate goal. And
that's important.
What that triggered,
That's important.
when you were talking about it, what that triggered for me was my need, my personal need to convey to folks the role that marriage has and continues to have in salvation history. So what I would, best case scenario, we would work from the fact that marriage exists so that the couple can make visible in the world God's love through their own love for each other. And then build up from there to all of the references and documents and so on and so forth. But at the core of that, they were created in God's image, and so they get to reflect God's image in the world around them through their love for each other.
Your God will be my God, and your people will be my people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the ministry team has tasks, 3 tasks,
We do.
and?
Well, the tasks are kind of what I mentioned. We are tasked with creating this ministry, this training team. So we're looking for the very, very best presenters, people that can really engage an audience, and people that can convey these skills in a very effective way. So we need to identify those peoples. And then, of course, we have to develop the curriculum and the delivery. But we also have decided that in order to set up this diocesan marriage ministry team, that we need to break up into task groups. So I'm going to ask Denny to tell you a little bit about the task areas that we're looking at.
I'm most familiar with the group I happen to be with, and that's to develop the criteria for what we're going to present to the presenters, so to speak, the people that will help ultimately the couples who prepare the couples for marriage. So we'll be looking for resources, what kind of things support what I mentioned earlier. Start here. Your love reflects God's love. How can we show them, how can we give them the information, how can we give them the tools and the references, so to speak. Certain ones we see in the newspaper all the time. 10 things you need to know about this, 10 things you need to know about that. So we want to put it in a concise format that's small, easy to remember, and then give kind of a breakout way, maybe a link to go to learn other stuff. But that's what we're doing, is developing, that's our curriculum and the references that we need and the kind of things that marriage ministers need to have in their consciousness, so to speak, to be able to do their ministry job.
Exactly. So we understand that marriage ministers are really, in a sense, catechists. So they have to be able to share their faith story, but they also have to be able to teach about the faith. And it's so much about witness. So what we're going to be doing is concentrating on a few different topic areas. We have to concentrate on relational skills. So in other words, active listening and being able to make decisions well as a couple, and forgiveness and reconciliation, couple prayer. Those we would consider relational skills. We have to convey and teach our marriage ministers presentation skills, how to give an effective witness talk, how to facilitate small group discussions, how to facilitate couple exercises. So relational skills, presentation skills, and another task group among the people on the diocesan ministry team is to determine those concepts about Catholic marriage that couples need to know. It's not just Catholic doctrine on marriage, but it's also things like how to understand young adults and the millennial generation, young adult evangelization, core Catholic concepts that we don't necessarily know about our faith, not just about marriage, but sort of a more general understanding of how marriage fits into the Catholic faith. So we need to provide all that. So those are the three things. And then the fourth task of this group is to evaluate, look at what we're already doing well.
It's already in place, right?
We have some things that Denny and I have worked on a number of years, and we've gotten a lot of input over the years. And there's some things that we think we're doing pretty well, but we know we have to improve. And so we're going to evaluate the current pre-Cana team training and the current, whatever current programs we have. And then we're going to determine what to retain and what to get rid of, and then how to enhance that and improve that. So those are the four tasks.
Will part of that be some of the, what I would call the nature of us humans, to understand that it's like my nature to act this way, and it might be your nature to act a different way, but if we're getting married, those two natures are going to have to understand each other a little bit?
That's right.
I would see that coming under the relational aspect. I like to think about teaching people the 3 R's: relationship, relationship, relationship. But
That's
what's in our nature, and what's again our fallen nature, so to speak, and the adjustments that we need to make as a result of that will definitely be a part of that plan.
Because I've always thought to try to get across to people that sometimes we do something and someone interprets it that you don't love me.
Yeah.
And it's not a question that I don't love you, it's just something that, for instance, I guess if I've been living alone as a bachelor for a long time and I don't hang up my socks, it's not that I don't hang up my socks so I don't love you, it's just that I got to learn maybe a different behavior. But that's all for yourselves
Sure.
to keep
There's
flushing
an
that
element
out.
of communication skills in that statement. You know, we should be taking notes.
Yes.
Where are these classes going to take place? Down at the diocese, or what are we doing?
So that's another thing that we have to determine. This is what we're talking about in terms of delivery. It's very hard to gather people who are very busy in their lives. You know, we tend to get the people that are really actively involved in their parishes already. So it's going to be hard to gather them for classes. But we know that we have to provide some classroom instruction for sure. But we also have to look at existing videos. We have to look at home study options. We have to look at the possibility of webinars. So that's all this. We have to look at that big picture and figure out how we're going to plug in those various learning methods so that we can provide the whole package.
So much available with all the
yeah.
new technology.
Yeah. And the beauty of it, Monsignor, is that once you start to learn, then you realize that we're all meant to be lifelong learners, and then you want to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the Vatican documents, into the USCCB documents, U.S. bishops. There's just such a richness of the beauty of the Catholic faith, Catholic social teaching, understanding the Mass, it's just wonderful, and then you just want to learn more and more. So that's what we're hoping, that once we kind of whet the appetites, that they're just going to want to keep on learning.
Best case scenario is to present the training or the information at the convenience of the person involved. And we need to balance that with the fact that we need to interact with each other to develop this knowledge also.
That's right.
It's God's covenant becoming alive in their
Coming
covenant.
alive, yep.
Why do you think training is so important?
We got a baptismal mission.
Discipleship.
Priestly-
Discipleship.
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 Priestly, prophetic, and kingly mission to make a difference
So
in the
you've
world.
had in the past, well, you've always had programs and processes
Yes.
going on and on and on.
Absolutely.
Do you see this now as a little bit different, deeper?
What we found through the course of the study commission that developed this plan is that we need better formation. We have good formation. It needs to be better if we're really going to strengthen marriages. And I think that couples have so much more to offer than they know that they have. And we got to tap into that. And we have to affirm what they can give and that they have this vocation to serve. But even just in the very sharing of their stories, people love stories, as you know, and Jesus was a storyteller. That even in the sharing of the stories, we can make a difference in the lives of these couples. And you alluded to some of those stories.
Stories are for real.
Yes, that's
Stories allow us to be theologians.
right.
Go deeper.
True.
Stories
Yeah.
allow us to be mystics. And
They allowed us to
that's-
be human.
That's part of the great gift that God gave us. Any feedback that you've already received on this new process, new training program, or are our priests
Well,
excited about
I'd
it,
say
or are
it's a
people
little-
excited about it?
It's a little early, but
Uh-huh.
there's not a lot of people that we've talked to about it. Actually, the committee has only met once so far.
Okay.
We
We're
had
kinda
our
feeling our way along.
inauguration of our committee, and we had really great participation, and we have a number of priests involved,
Good.
and we have some deacons and some married deacons, and we have one priest who was a married man who was recently ordained, and he does a lot of work in marriage ministry, and that's Father Jim Grogan, who's now stationed at Our Lady of Good Counsel in Morristown. We also have a number of married couples. We are looking to have different age groups represented, because we know that young adults, ultimately, the end user, who will be the engaged couples and the young married couples that we'll be ministering to, they need to hear from young adults. They need to know that there's somebody there that they can relate to. So we're always looking for younger couples to be part of our.
See, Peg, I think you're right on target with that. One of the things that I feel in myself at my age, that when I prepare things, think of things, prayer, whatever it happens to be, I say to myself, a lot of times you just naturally deep into the well. And the well was when you were born, when you grew up, and and if you played third base this way, worked then. Why isn't it working now? And yet, the people that we're talking with, sometimes they can't relate in a sense. They might listen to you, but unless they've lived that, and they have their own well. And I think always it's nice to kind of dip into their well too, to see how we can exchange and how we can kind of grow from each other's experiences, and not just say, well, this is the way it works, because it might not always be that way with everybody.
That's right. That's right.
And again, I think we're dealing with, or you folks are dealing with, I guess I put a little bit of time into these thoughts. I thought one time when I was giving a talk on marriage about my mom and dad, married 67 years or whatever, and I said, gee, did mom and dad really love each other all those years? Well, they were my mom and dad. So I wanted to say, sure they did. But then I started to think, dad just worked with men. Mom was the moms who did the laundry on Monday and put it through the ringer on Tuesday or whatever they did.
Sure.
And mom never associated with other men. Mom had forearms this big that she could I mean,
that's
it
with
was
her.
just a different time.
Yeah.
And I think, that they loved each other out of their time, but their time is not our time, where we interact with a lot of
Right.
of different people, and not only we're interacting with different religions and different people of cultures, and so much goes into it today that
But
I
the
think
definition of love was so different than it is today. Because today, oftentimes when people think of love, they think of romantic love, and they think of feelings. and they don't understand that what we're conveying to them is God's love. And it's very sacrificial, and it's quite wonderful.
So my joy can be your joy, and so your joy can be complete. Love as I have loved you.
That's what we're trying
There's
to.
the key. There's the key.
And in that salvation history, we talk about God's relentless love for the people of Israel and how beautiful that covenant was.
Beginning with the first no, ending with the yes of Jesus, and how he set up ways for us to be connected to that
we're,
yes.
we're in a society that doesn't want pain, and we understand
yeah.
that. And none of us wants to give pain. But real love has some pain. And I've always thought this, and I'll say it till God calls me home. The greatest people I know have suffered. I don't want people to suffer, but out of suffering comes love, a depth of awareness, and we grow out of that suffering and sharing that suffering. But that's a toughie. That's
I
a
know.
toughie.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's lots of marriage ministers out there, are there? Or are you looking for more? What are parishes doing to recruit more? What else do you want to say about your process?
Well, you know what's really interesting is that we used to have this process of, they were called parish family liaisons, and they were couples or individuals, mostly couples, who were selected by their pastor to represent their parish. And then they would come together, and we would talk about best practices. And then sort of that fell by the wayside. And I recently got a call from somebody who served on that committee, or that liaison, I guess, committee, I guess you could call it that. And they said, we really need to start that up again because I miss talking about and sharing best practices. And I think that would be an ideal way to identify these people. And then, of course, we also talked about the core team and identifying people. But yes, there are a lot of people out there who are doing wonderful things in parishes that maybe they have not made that connection, that they are actually marriage ministers. And they've already formed this, they're already doing the work. Maybe they just haven't formed the team, but they're out there. And there's so many who just want to serve.
And not every parish has a fully blown ministry. So we are recruiting. We're looking for a few good men and women. But we also need to take into account that we need people of the age group that we were just talking about, not only at the pre-Cana level, not only at the parish, but to join us in this process on the team itself.
Absolutely. Yep.
Sure, to just let them share what they think
Give
the
us the
people are
insights.
thinking out there,
Yes, yeah.
and what they need and what they're doing out there.
And it's so enriching to your marriage when you serve on these teams. It's such a win-win.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Love's contagious.
It is.
Indeed.
It
You know,
is.
it's a good virus to have.
It is. Yeah, that's right.
What are the requirements? Do you need requirements for people to join you? I hope people are listening that would want to give their time to this ministry.
Discern a call. Let us know. Not call us, but do some discernment, do some prayerful reflection on whether you have the call to this. Mm-hmm. Let us know so we can help you get to the point where you can. That's in a nutshell. So we can help you do what your call is. Specific requirements, there are probably some in the literature, but again, it's so early for us. We'll still be developing.
It's likely that they would have to be married a certain number of years, perhaps like 2 to 3 years. But we certainly don't want to lose the enthusiasm of a wonderful young couple.
Yes.
So we want to be probably not super strict on those requirements. Obviously married in the church, and then probably exhibiting some sign of enthusiasm for the faith.
The faith experience there, yeah.
Yeah. So, but all Catholic couples have a vocation and a call to serve, and what a wonderful way to serve by serving as a couple.
I like those words, Peg, that all of them have a vocation.
Yeah.
Please emphasize that even when the kids are getting married, that they have a vocation to each other and to God. That's a calling. It's
That's
not
right.
just
It is.
we're not just existing. We're part of His
Big-
ruah, His
big
breath,
thing.
His enlivenment in this whole wonderful kingdom of His.
Right.
Peg, I understand, and we talked a little bit before. I could talk to you too for hours. You were at the World Meeting of Families this past week?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you are so lucky.
I
And tell me a little bit about what you heard, felt about Pope Francis.
I just heard so much. Well, first I want to share some of the speakers that I heard were just so wonderful to prepare for the culmination, which of course was the Holy Father's visit and the papal mass. But in particular, I wanted to point out there was one particular cardinal. I believe his name is Tegel. I'm not 100% sure. I believe he's from the Philippines, and he gave this very powerful talk with humor and with great enthusiasm, but he talked about the fact that every single person is wounded, and we need to enter into that woundedness that we all have, immerse ourselves in it, and use that to be able to be compassionate and to be able to serve people out of their woundedness, and how out of that woundedness you become, you have that death and resurrection experience, and it's just so powerful.
Wounded healer.
That's right. Yeah, it was just
Now, yes.
so that was beautiful, and we were in a room that held 20,000 people, and it felt like he was just talking to you. He was amazing. And many speakers like that at the Congress.
Are those talks going to be published, or?
I'm hoping that we'll be able to get the texts, because they were really utterly amazing. And then to have the privilege, and I hope Danny will have time to share a little bit about his experience, but to have the privilege of being there at Independence Hall with all the people gathered to hear the Holy Father's address, which was so beautiful. And I have the text of that.
At the Festival of Families.
And then the Festival of Families was that evening. To be there, to see, to watch the people's faces when the Pope went by. And I myself, now I'm 57 years old, and I was screaming like a little kid. And I said, I saw him, I saw him, I saw him. You cannot imagine, well, you can, the power and what it feels like to be part of that energy that's created by this wonderful Holy
I also
Father.
just loved it when he kind of made the bookends, children and grandparents. You could have to tell me some other time. We don't have enough time for this. that dynamic, whatever it is, between children and grandparents. But the children are the future. The grandparents we respect for handing
It
on the
was
faith and for giving us all those
That's right.
wonderful, wonderful blessings.
Right.
I didn't make the conference, but I did have the privilege of distributing Eucharist during the Mass with my brother deacons
And
and
I'm
priests.
so
Awesome.
blessed that you got that privilege, because you've been giving out the Eucharist from your heart for years, Dennis. Pagan Denny,
Thank you.
thank you. I wish we could talk some more. The Catholic Corner, please, if you want more information, buildingstrongmarriages.org. Pray for each other, love each other. Good stuff. Thanks.
Thank you, Monsignor.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wish we could.